2015, an elite DFS Army Commando unit formed to bring high-level DFS strategy to the masses. Today, hated by DFS sharks and lineup sellers alike, they continue their quest to turn dope into DFS pros.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is your DFS Army Daily Dispatch brought to you by DFSArmy.com, and I am your host today on this fantastic Monday afternoon in Oklahoma, a balmy 31 degrees. Bear, it's got to be better weather out there, brother.
I mean, it's better than what you just described, yeah, but that's not saying a whole lot, I guess.
Yeah, it's... Okay, so... Let's see. Friday we got storms and tornadoes because of the weather being warm and just unstable. And then it was kind of okay on Saturday. Fell back down to cooler yesterday. Today it's cold. And Thursday and Friday combined we're supposed to get like 4 to 6 inches of snow.
Wow. Yeah, that's... Well, I mean, not something I understand to say, to put it, one way. We had a little bit of rain, which we desperately needed, which is great. And then
helps the air out there, right?
Helps the air, it helps the crops, it helps everything. I wish we had it when the fires were burning, but yeah, I mean, it's been nice and getting a little bit cooler now, so.
Yeah, it was a crazy weekend in the NBA and in NFL, but we're not going to talk about the NFL. We're here to talk about NBA. So some things that kind of stood out to me this weekend is the Knicks still don't have any idea what they're doing with their backcourt. There are about 5 teams that are on the verge of, being mediocre and not knowing what they're doing. They're trying to say they want to compete, but they don't have the talent to compete, and they're on they want to rebuild, but they want to compete, and it's just like you've got to pick one or the other. And then you've got Patrick Beverley getting thrown out because of, let's just call it like it is, verbal abuse from a fan. And I'm not worried about Patrick Beverley because the dude can stand his own. I don't like him, but he's not one of the guys I want to pick on. And if what he says is true, then the NBA they've got to do something about it. I know we don't hear a lot about fans getting ejected in the first couple rows, but they warn you before each and every single game. Like when you go and sit courtside, there's a postcard on your chair when you do so that says, watch what you say, basically. You can be ejected. And I feel like the NBA players should have the right to not be slandered on as far as family, wife, kids, etc.
Yeah, of course, man. I don't even understand how this is a question.
And,
I mean, really.
And it's a question because the fact that he said that he told security and he told the refs and they still didn't do anything, and then it escalated to the point where, I mean, did you see the bounce pass?
Yes.
I mean, my 2-year-old son throws a harder bounce pass than what he did.
Yeah, it wasn't a pass. It was kind of like
It's like here. You know what? Yeah. I know what you're saying. You need to shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact that the Mavericks security and the refs didn't do anything about it to this guy, and I think partly it's because the guy's a season ticket holder and he's a well-known fan down there in the Dallas area. As far as to Mavericks games, he's been going to Mavericks games for years. That was part of the reason why nothing was said. But if he crossed that line about talking about a player's mother, then he needs to be revoked. I'm sorry, there's just a line that I feel like that shouldn't be crossed. You want to talk about me, you want to say that my game sucks, whatever. It's just like what we deal with on a nightly basis. If you want to talk about me saying that I was off today and that my picks sucked and that I don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. I can handle that. The second you bring me and my family into it, it's go time.
It's a go time. Absolutely is go time.
And
absolutely is go time. There's no excuse. I mean, there's no excuse. There's no way in any setting, in any environment, anyone should be talking about another person's family. And look, I don't want to say, like one family member is more off limits than the other, but I really think that there's the worst ones in order is a man's kids and then a man's mom. Those are two things that are in that order that are 100% off limits.
Yeah,
you suck. You can't defend him. You're a dirty player. We don't like you here. You smell. You can't shoot. Your shoes are ugly. You're bucktooth. Dude, say whatever you want about him. You talk about his family, you have no place in the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then I kind of, the only thing I disagree with you on, and it's a minor disagreement, is I think all family is the same. And I hold, because to me, it's, the most important person in the world to me is my wife. Like, my wife comes before my kids and everything, and that's just a religious thing. But, and you can agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into that conversation. But, like, you talk about anybody in my family, I don't care if it's my sister or my cousin, whatever. My family is off limits. And especially in today's world where social media is so rampant and you can find anything on anyone, no matter what the public figure is, like, it's easy to troll and it's even easier to get under the person's skin.
Sure.
So and call it what you may, I might not like Patrick Beverley, but I've never really heard him lie about anything. I've maybe heard him fib about, I was going after the ball with the Russ situation. But, when it comes to something like this, I don't think he would just be, like, throwing it out there if it wasn't true.
No, he wouldn't.
So, it's, like, that's just not right, man. I mean, we saw it, it was the first game last year, the guy in the Sixers, for the Sixers fan, when he flipped off Russ, the first game of the season. Like, or maybe it was 2 years ago, I can't remember. But, like, he got in trouble for just flipping him off. Come on, guys. I mean, you can say what you want about NBA players need to learn to hold their tongue and everything. And KD, Durant got fined $25,000 for saying what he said a couple weeks ago, and Beverly's, not only did he get thrown out, but he's probably going to receive a bill from the league office because,
probably.
You're not supposed to engage with the fans in a derogatory or demeaning manner, no matter what they say. And the NBA had the right to do that because, they showed that, once fans start crossing that line, it can get to a point to where it can become a major black eye. So I don't fault the NBA for that.
Sure. Because
there is a precedent set, but the NBA needs to get control of this and do something, because if Patrick Beverley is the only one that gets in trouble and this fan doesn't get in trouble and these fans don't start getting made an example of as well publicly, this is only going to get more and more out of hand. So
I think we're both on the same page. The league needs to do something.
Yeah. So there was that. And then this morning we get the news that Fred Hoiberg has been canned by the Chicago Bulls. And I'm not really sure what the Bulls are doing here because, like, they've got a ton of talent. They haven't been healthy. The front office has not put Hoiberg in a position to succeed since they got rid of Jimmy Butler, since they got rid of, some of their other pieces. Bobby Portis is hurt. Lauri Markkanen's only been back one game. You don't have a true big center. You have a stretch five. Granted, he's very, very good, and he's going to be a part of this team for a while. But like, this seems like it's a scapegoat reaction. Now, what we don't know is behind the scenes how they're practicing, how Hoiberg is handling those practices, how they're working and stuff like that. Because I was listening to Brendan Hayward on SiriusXM NBA radio this morning, and he threw out two good examples, and one of them was the Knicks, and the other one was the Brooklyn Nets. And you know that, well, 95% of the time when you face the Knicks or the Nets, barring a double overtime game against a grind team like Memphis, you're going to get a fight. They're going to come out and they're going to play hard.
Sure.
And he made a very good point. Like, they're in rebuilding mode, but their talent is not more than the Bulls. The Bulls arguably have more talent than those two teams, probably put together. But you see the Bulls just lay down sometimes. And if you want to fire him on the premise of the effort's not there, he's not connecting with our players, stuff like that, then that's fine. But then don't try to sell us that this move had everything to do with your record like they tried to sell us about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So, they promoted Jim Boland to the. They didn't even give him an interim tag, which makes me think like something else was being done behind the scenes.
Quite possible. It really is quite possible.
And it wouldn't shock me with the Bulls. But we don't. It's going to be a wait and see now with these guys. Thankfully, they're not on the slate today, so we don't know how they're going to react. I would assume that nothing really changes drastically, and it's all moderate changes. Hopefully, their effort gets better, so it's not an auto, pick and pull. But we'll see. So, okay. Anything else you saw that you wanted to kind of touch on? I know I kind of hit on a couple hot topics there, but wanted to make sure that we got a couple things discussed because I know they were hot topics last night and this morning in our chat room. So,
I mean, anything else in particular? Not really. I mean, I think so I guess the answer is yes, I do have something to talk about. When we talk about revenge narratives, they're not all real. What I mean by that is some people kind of put a little bit too much stock into it. And when you talk about LaMarcus Aldridge and how horrible he's been playing, not just him, I mean, it's the entire Spurs, right? But if ever a narrative to buy into, it was him playing Portland. And we were all over him all day long. I wasn't coaching yesterday, but all of our coaches were, you were, everyone was. And all we kept hearing was, I can't play him, I can't play him, I can't play him. And that recency bias probably bit you in the butt. Because he came out. He played really well. Him and DeMar DeRozan. And the next thing I was going to say was when we talk about strategy in DFS, for NBA in particular, if you're going to think, okay, LaMarcus is going to have a good game, that typically means that the game is going to be close. And if the game is going to be close, it's not going to be Aldridge by himself. It's going to be the other star on that team, which is DeMar DeRozan. And so when we say stuff like, if you're going to play LMA, pair him with DeMar DeRozan, because those are the two focal points of the offense for that entire Spurs team. And if you're going to play those two under the premise that that game was going to stay close, that means more than likely Damian Lillard, possibly CJ McCollum, possibly Farouk Aminu, whoever, the other Nurkic, whoever else, you want to pair one to two more other guys from the other team running it back with them because it's going to be a close game. And in close games, the studs on each team play 35 minutes when the game goes wire to wire. And we saw textbook yesterday. If you play Damian Lillard, if you play DeMar DeRozan, and if you play LaMarcus Aldridge, you're already ahead of 60% of the field.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. All revenge isn't created equal. It's, how was he treated on his way out? Was it just, an amicable, split? Did he leave in free agency? Was he snubbed? Was he traded? Because, there's a lot of different areas and views of it. But I would agree, LMA leaving Portland was not pretty. I also agree with, we talk about it all the time. There are certain guys I don't want anything to do with, 90% of the time unless I'm pairing them with another part of that offense. And then usually when I'm pairing them with a part of that offense, I'm bringing them back with somebody.
Sure.
Because, that's how you win GPPs is you've got to have, multiple pieces of a 236.5 spread. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. You've got to have multiple pieces of that because if you're just going to think that you're getting one and hoping that nobody else does anything,
yeah,
you're probably not going to, you might still cash, you might still do well.
Sure.
But to get in the top 1% of lineups in these larger GPPs, you've got to have some sort of, correlation because like you said, if LMA is going off, that usually means that DeMar DeRozan is going to have something to do with it. And in Portland, I'm probably going to bring that back with Damian Lillard.
Of course.
At minimum. So, I think that's a really good point. And we'll right off the top, we'll talk about, kind of an underlining narrative here in just a moment. But
let's do it.
You've got Russell Westbrook versus the Detroit Pistons. And make no mistake about it, there is no love lost between Reggie Jackson and Russell Westbrook.
So can you give us specifics, please?
Yeah. Basically, when Russ got hurt by Beverly, it's kind of funny how this all kind of comes about, When Russ got hurt by Beverly in the playoffs, I think it was 5 years ago, Reggie Jackson came in and, he was a young kid at the time, played semi-okay, but Russ missed the first, I'd say month and a half of the season, the next season, and Reggie Jackson basically did very well. He was offered a contract and turned it down because he didn't want to, he thought he should be in the starting lineup. And this was when when Durant and Westbrook were on the team together. Basically, he was saying how he was a better point guard. He was more of a true point guard. He felt like he could lead this team to a championship and, threw Russ under the bus, basically, and forced his way out of town. We traded him basically for peanuts. It was Ersan Ilyasova and Kyle Singler to Detroit. So there's no love lost here. And the last 3 seasons when Russ has played against the Pistons, he's at least put up 55 fantasy points.
Yeah.
That's not the only thing. He also kind of, Reggie kind of also taunted Russ a little bit when, I think it was 2 years ago, when the Pistons beat the Thunder. And when you get Steven Adams talking bad about you, then you've made somebody mad. And even Steven Adams was saying, look, that's not right. We're going to have something for you when we go at you again. And make no mistake about it, Russ doesn't like anybody on the court other than his teammates. But you want to get him mad? Yeah, let's go.
Sure. No, that makes sense to me.
So, okay, so we got Steph Curry at 9,700 going against Atlanta. I guess the real question here is, are you going to play him because of the possibility of a blowout? This is the only game of the evening that has a larger spread. Everything else is at least 6.5 or under. I mean, I could see him playing 29 minutes, 3 quarters, and hitting 45, 50, and being done.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to is how worried are you about, this game being remotely close? And I don't know that it will. I don't believe that it will. I mean, the only thing that is kind of making it interesting is that the Warriors lost yet another big man. With Draymond already being out, I mean, they never really had Boogie anyway, so I'm not even talking about him. But they lost Draymond, and now they lost Damian Jones. So it's gonna be Looney, and then it's gonna be probably some Bell and probably some Jerebko, and those are the three that are gonna get the most playing time. And it's basically what it's gonna mean is it's gonna mean if they are gonna blow them out, it's because of Steph, Durant, and Clay. With the other guys kind of getting some peripheral stats, and maybe if the game's out of hand, get some garbage time stats. But outside of that, I mean, I don't see. I think 10.5 was kind of generous on their part. I mean, I would likely take the Warriors to cover that personally, but I mean, it's all in play. It's all in play. I think it'll be very contrarian to play them.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I don't think they're going to be chalk by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
I don't think that, in a 236 total with only 7 games on the slate, they're going to be overlooked either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
It's just, you're going to Steph and, Clay and Durant are going to, garner some more ownership, along with a lot of these value guys here as well. I like you said, there's about 6-7 guys that are in play here now, but 9,700 is a tough price to pass up on Steph when you know that he's going to be over 10K probably Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to John Wall here. 9,500 against the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you're probably going to see most of the ownership at point guard. I mean, that's why why would you play Curry when Wall is 200 less going up against Emmanuel Mudiay, who, can't defend for anything. So that's, one of the things that I'm looking at. And rightfully so. I mean, I expect Wall to have a really good game. Neither of these teams, with a couple of exceptions, maybe all season, have blown another team out. The Wizards seem to have, started to play, I don't want to say well because that's a little bit too far, but improved. The Knicks are playing better basketball. I mean, they still don't have a rotation figured out, but they're starting to play better basketball. They're starting to get contributions from guys like, Kevin Knox and Trier and Dotson now, and Moutier is playing really well, and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Cantor and Vonleh, and I mean, these guys are starting to come together. And frankly, as soon as they hired Fizdale, I knew they'd figure it out eventually, and I also knew it would take about 25 to 30 games to do so. Just like the thing is, we go and we see these super teams get put together, and we tend to forget that when a non-super team, even a bad team, gets a new coach, there's still a lot of figuring out to do. Mm-hmm. They won't win as many games because they don't have the super team talent and abilities that those teams do. Like, I mean, let's just with the Lakers, they got a brand new player in LeBron James and 3 other brand new players that are part of the rotation, and everything changed. And so now you've got to understand that they're going to win games because they have a lot of talent. The Knicks have significantly less talent, but they're still an NBA team. And they still play in the East. And there's still a lot of teams in the East that the Knicks can play that are very winnable games. But the rotation will still take another 15, 20 more games until we know what it's going to look like. Fizz is doing exactly what we thought he was going to do.
Yep.
You're up. You get 5 games. Show me what you got. See how those 5 games go. If you do well, you're staying on to the next position that we're going to evaluate. If you're not playing well, Frank Ntilikina, you're going to sit the next 4 or 5 games, and the next guy up, and I'm going to see what he can do. And after those, figuring out moments occur, then we're going to know exactly who's going to play, who's going to be first unit, who's going to be backup second unit, who's not going to play at all. So anyways, back to the point here. Wall is going to be defended by Moutier. With Burke out, it's going to be basically Moutier running the point guard for a majority of the game. And I like how that looks for John Wall a lot.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I'm only playing John Wall when I'm ping-ponging him with Emmanuel Moutier.
Sure.
I want that ping-pong action, but I'm not going to play John Wall without some sort of Nick in my lineup, and most of the time it's going to be with Emmanuel Moutier because they handle the ball, and Emmanuel Moutier is just too cheap in this matchup, in my opinion.
He's way too cheap.
The one thing I am a little worried about, first off, I can see the Knicks actually winning this game. How they're going to win it, I have no idea. But the Wizards are such a mess and still continue to be a mess that there's no telling which Wizards team is going to show up. We do know that John Wall is going to play 35-plus minutes. We do know that Bradley Beal is going to play 35-plus minutes. We don't know what the status of Otto Porter is now, obviously. He went from out to questionable, so I'm assuming that he's probably going to play when you get upgraded over the course of the night. So I don't know how much of this Wizards team I actually want to expose myself to without having some sort of correlation coming back, especially in tournaments.
Makes sense. It's the first thing we talked about, right? If you're gonna play in that game, you got to play other pieces.
Yep. All right, let's hit a little bit of a couple of these other guys. Just say yes or no real quick and give me one line on why. Kyle Lowry.
Firmly in play. Coming off a day's rest, which they claim to be, back spasms. Nick Nurse said he's good to go. He gets the defense of Jamal Murray. Absolutely.
Yep. Chris Paul versus Minnesota.
This is tough because, so I actually really like this game. I like the totals of this game. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a really close game as well. I like the Minnesota's at home. Houston's favored by just 1.5. It's the last game. There's 2 last games, but I think I want a few pieces of this game. I don't necessarily know him or not, but just because I think at this point of his career with the Rockets, I think he's more than content to kind of say, okay, James Harden, go kill him. And when you're sitting, I'll kill him. But for the rest of the time, go kill him. And that's what he's been doing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's you can play him in the same lineup, but don't expect them to be going off at the same time. It's it's going to be your turn, my turn type of basketball, which isn't fun basketball to watch, by the way.
Right.
Okay, so some of these guys towards the mid to value option, I don't have a lot of interest in outside of like an MME tournament style at very low exposure. Trae Young, we all know that he can get hot. It's a high total. He's being compared to Steph. We all get that. I don't know what I want to do here with this one. So please help me.
Look, man, it looks like we're probably going to get Jeremy Lin back.
If he's back, then it's definitely a no-go for me.
Well, he's probable. He's probable. So that's kind of, gives you your answer right there. But I might have some interest in Lin, to be honest.
Oh, God, please.
I might. In large field tournaments, yeah. Look, everyone's going to go rushing to Moutier. Go play Lin for $300 less. all of a sudden a guy like Schreier or Hardaway Jr. and they phase out Moutier and Lynn goes off in a blowout game, you're ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. So, okay, we've touched on Emmanuel Moutier a couple times. I'm skipping right over Spencer Dinwiddie because the Brooklyn Nets are a mess. I think he's in play, but tournaments only. Tim Frazier has got a nice little price bump. He's going to be playing 30 minutes. For me, it has to do with whether or not Etwan Moore is playing.
Who's probable?
So I have no problems fading Tim Frazier.
Same here.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 6K versus New Orleans. I've got a little bit of interest there.
Yeah, for a couple of reasons. Number one, he played well, but he didn't produce a lot of fantasy points yesterday in that game. In fact, he wasn't even on the court a lot of the second half. I mean, he played, but not like he usually is. And I'm wondering if that's because Doc knew they were playing a fast-paced game today where they're going to need him.
Yeah.
So, something to keep in mind.
Yep, absolutely. I think that Cleveland situation is kind of hard to predict as well with George Hill now back in the mix.
It's tough. It's tough.
You know, Colin Sexton, he's priced up.
I mean, look, he's still going to play. Here's the thing. So, and I actually looked into this pretty detailed yesterday, or when George Hill came back. The Cavs want to run Sexton at the 2, next to George Hill. So that's what they've been doing.
That makes sense.
He's still going to play. It's actually better for him, even though he can handle the ball, but under pressure, I'd rather have George Hill handling the ball and bringing it up the court. Not that Brooklyn has anyone that can really lock you down, but defensively. But anyways, so you're still going to see 33 minutes for Colin Sexton. Where in a situation where he doesn't have to be ball dominant, he can play off the ball a little bit. I don't know that I hate it.
But can he adapt to playing off the ball?
So you're right. It's going to take a little bit of time. But on the flip side of that, he still gets a really good matchup.
Oh, I agree.
And so that's where I'm kind of like, he played it in a game. They've already watched film. He's not acclimated, but it'll take some more time. But I think he starts to kind of see now what he has to do. NBA players adapt really quick, man. So.
Yeah, but you would have thought that NBA player would have been able to adapt really quick to getting his teammates involved too. So, I think overall it's a better position for him. I just don't know if I want to actually go to it yet. So,
fair enough.
Shooting guard James Harden. Obviously, he's going to see a lot of Andrew Wiggins. He's going to see a lot of Malcolm Brogdon. He's going to see a lot of everybody, and nobody can probably stop him.
Malcolm Brogdon?
Not Malcolm Brogdon. I'm sorry, Tyus Jones.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking?
I'm sorry.
Where did that come from?
Well, they both have green on their jerseys.
It might be even well, probably not. Never mind.
I was about to say it's not going to be. Drew Holiday's kind of priced out for me.
Yeah.
9,200. I know the total. I know the game. But on the main slate, I don't think I'm going to pay 9,200 for him. I guess you could pay up to be contrarian and hope that he goes completely bonkers at a very, very low owed price.
Yeah.
Not gonna do it though.
Well, I think a lot of people won't either because you've got first of all you've got Hardaway Jr. there at 73 on Fanduel, who is in a pretty good matchup. Pretty good game in a game where defense will be optional. And same goes for Bradley Beal in the same game. So I think you might even see some guys ping pong in those two, which I don't hate. So yeah, I mean, the only way I would have played Drew Holiday is going to sound crazy, is if I'm playing Lou Williams at the second shooting guard.
I love that.
That's what I'm going to be doing.
Because we were going to talk about Lou Williams. D'Angelo Russell versus Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an easy price tag to pay. on FanDuel. He's much, much better on DK. But I can't deny the matchup. Now, the problem is this. Is that when he's on the court with Spencer Dinwiddie, they're splitting the initiation of the offense. If Joe Harris is back, it muddies things up even more because Baz Napier, in my opinion, has played well enough to stay in this rotation a little bit. You could see the minutes decreasing a little bit more for D'Angelo Russell, and I don't know if that's a price tag I'm kind of willing to pay on FanDuel. Now, on DK, I don't mind it at all. But on FanDuel, I think I'm probably going to pass on D'Angelo Russell unless it's like a game stack type situation. And I still prefer Dinwiddie over Russell.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a massive price difference, right? And then, so that's the first thing. And then you've got, so I actually think if Harris comes back, I think it'll be a little bit better for Russell.
Actually, the price isn't. I thought I saw Russell was at 5,800 on DraftKings. He's at 77, so.
Right, the only way I'm doing, and this is going to sound weird to people, the only way I'm going to do it with Russell is if Harris does come back. Because what happens when Harris comes back is Dinwiddie goes back to the bench. And then Dinwiddie is more in play because he's not going to split the time with Russell, and he can actually run the second unit offense on his own.
Do you think that they bring Joe Harris back and start him automatically?
Let me tell you something about Joe Harris and the Brooklyn Nets. They love this guy.
Oh, I know they do.
They adore this guy, and their fans adore this guy, and I'm not either of those two, and I adore the guy.
I know all that, but what I'm saying is like, do you think they automatically rush him into starting his first game back? If
he wasn't going to start, they wouldn't play him.
Okay.
So he's coming back. Well, if he comes back, he's starting. Yes.
I would much rather have Klay Thompson, and we told you on Friday, or was it Friday? Saturday. We told you on Saturday when Steph Curry came back to play Klay Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
The spacing opens up, and when Draymond Green comes back, you're going to play Klay Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the spacing is going to open up even more. It's crazy what adding a guy to an offense, even if he's limited, can do when as soon as he crosses half court, he's in range. Maybe even before that. But also knows that he doesn't have to shoot it. He can still move the ball around. Look, I think Kevin Durant might be overpriced with Curry back because of what he was doing with Curry out of the lineup. But I honestly think that Klay's better with Curry in the lineup. Just because of how their games work together. So,
well, it's a no-brainer because look, with Steph out, everybody can collapse on him, on Klay. With Steph back in the game, you can't because then you're leaving Steph open, and nobody's leaving Steph open from anywhere on the court, like you just said. So, it just opens up so much for him. Again, it's the same issue we kind of have with playing Curry. Obviously, the price difference, but are you paying $7K for a Klay Thompson that you just might see 3/4 of? I don't know. I don't hate it.
In tournaments in this matchup, yeah, I will.
In tournaments, I agree. Yes, 100%. In tournaments, yes. But if you need more of like a cashy build, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Let's talk about Andrew Wiggins here real quick.
I think I might shock you with this one.
You probably won't. Go ahead.
I actually love it. And I don't play with...
It makes me sick to my stomach, but I do too.
I know. Exactly. Here's the thing. We know that Paul will be guarding most of the game Jeff Teague. And or if they're in at the same time, Derrick Rose. So putting those two for me, we didn't even talk about them for a reason, right? But that means Wiggins is going to see Harden and Gordon and Green and these guys are not defenders. I mean, they're NBA players, so they could lock down anyone listening to this podcast. But they're not defenders, and at the NBA level, and in terms of stopping anyone. And this game is going to be close. This game is going to be really close. And both of these teams, outside of Chris Paul, are not very good on defense. And Covington, right? For Minnesota, they're not very good on defense, and so that to me opens things up a lot. And we talked about James Harden earlier, and one of the things that I was starting to say and I stopped saying was they might put Covington on him. Maybe they might. Doesn't scare me off Harden, but they might. And when you have a game that are two teams that are, I don't know if I'd call Minnesota contending, but in the playoff hunt. And even though Houston's out of the playoffs now, but they're going to make their run and get back up the rankings, so these are two legit teams. Neither team really blows out teams very much this year. I want a piece of it. And Wiggins is probably the cheapest piece that I can stomach. And I really can't even stomach him, but in terms of the price for the game, I'm going to want to play someone from the Rockets with him. Who that's going to be. Obviously, you want it to be Harden, but price-wise makes it a little bit difficult. Maybe Capella on the other side. I'm not sure, but you want to play someone from that because if you think the game's going to be close, again, the studs are going to get all the minutes in the close games. So if you're right on one, you might as well be right on two or three. So that's kind of where I'm at on Wiggins.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I actually really do like it. It makes me sick to my stomach. I don't like playing Andrew Wiggins. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I just don't think that he's put it together in his head yet. I don't think he's I think he has the ability to be a very, very good basketball player.
Yeah.
Like top 15 player in the league.
Sure.
I don't think he has the drive to do it right now.
Interesting.
He's still young, so I'm not saying that he's done. I just don't think he has the drive to do it right now. And that's just from what I've seen as far as his demeanor on the court. Now, I know nothing about the back end, so I'm not even going to try to speculate, but I know the talent, and I know the ability that he has. And if you're telling me I can get a guy that can put up 45 to 50 at under 6K and is going to play a ton of minutes, I can't, barring the name aside, I can't deny that. So if you say Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, and I'm an Oklahoma City guy, I'm going to say Andrew Wiggins.
For sure.
If you tell me cash, I only can choose two, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, it's going to be Andrew Wiggins. I mean, he's at that price where it's too good to pass up.
It's too good to pass up. In a great matchup, in a great pace, in a great total, in a great, spread. I mean, sorry guys, we're going to have to tell you to play Wiggins.
Yep. All right, let's talk about one more guy here real quick.
I think we got to talk about more than one, but we'll make it fast.
Yeah, okay. Let's. We do, because I forgot that we needed to talk about this guy too. Okay. First guy we got to talk about is Damian Dotson.
So he's going to be very popular today.
Very popular.
So first of all, their other backup point guard, Trey Burke, is out. He might be out for a while after what I saw. So we're going to have to see how that goes. But for now, so here's the thing about him. The thing about him is, him being Dotson is, I really, really struggle with New York's guards. I mean, like if I'm playing Moutier, I probably won't play Dotson. On tournament lineups where I'm playing Dotson, I'll probably fade Moutier. Because I could see where a game situation where, one of the two gets hot, Hardaway's not sitting, right? So Hardaway's the only constant in the variable rotation there, along with Vonleh when he doesn't foul out. But let's specifically to guards. Hardaway's the only guy who's going to play over 30 minutes, almost night in, night out. barring foul trouble, injury, etc., getting ejected, whatever. So, right, I'm just saying
throw that little nugget in there.
Yeah, barring things we can't control, right? We can't control. He can control it. We can't control it. So then you look at, like we talked about earlier already, Trier, Hardaway, Knox, Moutier. Those are 4 guys, and I know I'm forgetting someone else that they just brought in, but they'll come to me here in a minute. Those are 4 guys that can legitimately start playing really well, and Fizz is like, my man, you're playing this game. This is your game. You go ahead and go off. And you pick 2 of them, and the other one's riding the bench. And then it's nice to get one of the 2, but you kind of need both of those roster spots to go off.
Yeah, Courtney Lee's also added into the mix too.
Thank you. That's who it was. Thank you. You and I talked about him the other day. By the way, he didn't get into that game on Sunday.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't know why I thought I saw him out there, but
yeah, I saw the little clip from Fizz. He was saying, yeah, he was back. He's happy to have him back. He just didn't get a situation to put him in the game. So that alone kind of tells you why my concern for the Knicks guards is there, because Fizz I didn't get a situation. He's all about the situation, and that situation in basketball can go one of 10,000 ways per quarter. So I like to go and play guys that I know are already in the rotation. Hardaway Jr., Drew Holiday, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Eric Gordon, Danny Green, right? These are all guys, Alan Crabb. These are all shooting guards that I know are going to be in the high 20s to 30 plus. That I'm consistent, and if they don't play well, they don't play well. But at least they got the minutes to be able to produce. Whereas with the Knicks, man, I just don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult, to say the least. It is very, very, very difficult. Okay, talk about them. Let's go.
Lou. Here's the thing, man. It's going to be very difficult for people to roster Lou Williams today because
he's 5,700.
No, I actually don't mind that price.
You don't,
but because he's not being projected very high. Now, I look at this game and I tell myself, okay, you've got a team that's been pretty good defensively in the Clippers. You've got a team that's really fast and good offensively in the Pelicans. And I understand defense wins championships, but we're talking about 2018 NBA. And we are talking about a situation where if the Clippers want to compete in this game, they are going to have to score. And Avery Bradley and Patrick Beverly and Gilgeous-Alexander, they're not the same, but so Beverly and Bradley, they're defensive guys. Yeah, they can score, but they're not going to score at a pace to keep up with the Pelicans. Gilgeous-Alexander, he can certainly score, absolutely. Lou Williams, you have Tobias, you have Gallinari, and you have Montrezl Harrell, who can all score in different ways, but they can all score. They are going to need Lou Williams to score if this team is going to hit 115 points, which is what they're going to need to stay close into this game. And I think at some point you're going to see the ball in his hands almost exclusively in the second half of this game.
Yep. If Lou Williams has you 15 points in the first half, you've won.
Yeah.
Because he's going to put up a monster second half when this game picks up in pace and it just and guys get more tired. He's going to get to the free throw line. Look, he can roll out of bed and score the basketball. He is a very, very, very good scorer. He's one of the best. Come on, he's the reigning sixth man of the year. And I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out and he gets it again this year. But I love Lou Williams here. And he's one of the only reasons why I'm not playing a guy like Kent Bazemore or Danny Green is because I've got to get me some sweet loot tonight. So, all right, let's move on to small forward here. The top's kind of loaded. Obviously, you've got Durant and Kawhi. As far as Durant, I would leave it for tournaments only. 11,000 is a lot to pay for a guy that now has Curry back in the lineup. I don't mind paying up to be contrarian in tournaments, but probably won't do it in cash. Kawhi against Denver might be a little bit lower owned just because of the perception that now Lowry's back, so he's not going to have to do as much. And you're partly right, but I still think 10-4 is a nice solid price. I think they've got his price right, with the upside built into it. Paul George at 8,600 against Detroit is probably as high as I would go in cash.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit too high.
Yeah, I think on today's slate it's too high, obviously, because we've got the mid-tier to value options is absolutely loaded. But
yeah,
he would probably be one of my cutoffs. So
sure.
I think he's in a good matchup. I don't think anybody's going to be able to stop him. He contributes in a lot of different ways, so I think he's got a nice safe floor. And if this game ends up, staying close and through the fourth quarter, he's gonna touch 45 to 50. And I think for Paul George, he's underpriced. But on today's slate, he might still only be a tournament-only type of play.
Yeah, I think he is.
Nikola Mirotic versus the Clippers. You want to talk about a ping pong that I love?
Uh-huh.
This is a ping pong I love.
Miro and Galley?
Miro and Galley.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. I actually love it.
Both of these guys can get hot. Both of these guys can put the ball in the hoop. I'm still kind of flabbergasted. Yes, I just did say that word. With Gallinari's free throw percentage this season. I'm like, wow, this is sick. We're talking Steph Curry type of consistency. And it's not like he's taken like 15 of them either. But my gosh, is there a possibility? I want to throw this out there for you. We know that you want some Anthony Davis. We know that you're going to want some Montrezl Harrell.
Of course.
And we've talked about Lou Williams. But is there a possibility that outside of Anthony Davis, these two are the highest fantasy output guys out of this game?
Is there a possibility? Yeah, probably. Because if you think about it, so you said outside of Anthony Davis, right?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
So
Anthony Davis, we know, has 80 to 100 point upside.
Yeah, no, for sure. So my point here is that outside of AD, on the Pelicans, it's really just Mirotic and Drew. And yeah, sure, you can possibly say Randall. But I think Mirotic and Drew consistently are the highest, output fantasy-wise. So at that point, it's a coin flip between Drew and Mirotic. And Drew will probably draw a ton of Avery Bradley. And Mirotic has nobody to guard him. That's been the softest spot for the Clippers all year long. I think it might even be worse than centers. Or it's close, maybe second worst, I'm not sure. But that's where you attack him. Because at least with AD, they're going to put Montrez on him. Not that Montrez is going to stop AD, but at least he's going to be on him. With Mirotic, it's going to be Gallinari and or Harris, and those guys haven't stopped a single thing all year. So, I think it's very possible.
Yeah,
and
I love it. It was one of the first things that kind of stood out to me when I was trying to build or see where I wanted to go in tournaments, and I just absolutely love it tonight. Otto Porter, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him. We have to see if he's in or out. That's going to kind of affect my opinion on Markieff Morris. If Porter is in, I don't think I'm going to touch Markieff. If he's out, then I'm going to load up on all the Markieff. I know we're not talking about power forwards yet. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
So we got to see what's up with Porter. I mean, obviously we have to wait for the news. So let's say hypothetically he's in. Where are you on him if he's in? Because he's not injured, right? Was it personal with it, or was it a foot?
Personal, and then I thought they said back at one point, but it's whatever.
What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows with these guys? It was a left big toe contusion, which, as I found out, could actually swell up black, and you have to have blood drained from it, a la Devin Booker. But
that sucks.
I don't know, man. $7K for a guy. Tournament's fine.
Even then, I'm a little iffy.
Oh, definitely iffy, but
I mean,
I can see it. I guess in tournaments, if you wanted to go there, you're going to get him at low ownership. He can still go for 45, but that's a tough price to pay.
It is. It is. And he's been playing well, so I get why they pressed him up when he's been playing.
If I'm going to get my auto Porter exposure, it's probably going to be on DK where he's 59.
That's easy.
So, Robert Covington, we've talked about. He's probably going to see a lot of PJ Tucker. I think that he has the ability to get hot from beyond the arc. I like him more on DK where you get that bonus. Probably not going to touch him on FanDuel.
Here's the thing about it, though. So I agree. At his price, I agree. But he doesn't need to score to really get the value. He needs to score to crush value. He gets the value by all the peripheral stats that he has. Right? Now, having said that, you're talking about the ball in the hands of Chris Paul and James Harden. James Harden, turnover machine. Chris Paul rarely turns the ball over. And as we just talked about before, if you're buying into it that James Harden is going to be the one that's going to be taking over and Chris Paul is perfectly okay with that, well, he might be able to get a lot of really elite fantasy points by getting some of those steals. If he turns the ball over 8 times a game, which sounds like a lot, but that's what he's been doing, and half of those go as steals to Covington, that's a ton of points alone, right? So just something to think about in tournaments where, he's got to be able to make his shot to hit value. No. If he makes his shot, then he's elite GPP value, right? Because he's got all those peripherals I just talked about, and he's knocking down threes. That's high-level stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you. Not on that at all. Taurean Prince. This range is where I'm kind of a little worried about. You got guys like Rodney Hood, C.D. Osman, Taurean Prince, Gary Harris. Like these 4 guys right here in this little mid-tier range. It's probably going to win somebody a tournament tonight.
The problem I
have no idea who it's going to be.
The problem I have here with Gary Harris is it's either, they put him at small forward. He's shooting guard. I don't know what they're doing. The problem is that
he's going to see a lot of Kawhi probably.
Either Kawhi or Danny Green, right? Two of which I don't fuck with, just to put it bluntly. So, that's the first issue I have there. Second issue there is, so I really do for tournaments like Taurean Prince, but under the premise that you play Warriors in exchange, right? Because Taurean Prince is the kind of guy, along with Kent Bazemore and Trae Young, who, if the game is close, it's because of them. Maybe a Dwayne Dedman, I don't know, somebody else from the Hawks. So if I'm playing Taurean Prince, which I do like, I want at least one more Hawk and at least one Golden State Warrior in that same lineup. And Prince has the upside to just go nuts. So,
yeah, I would agree with that. Gary Harris. He's gonna troll tonight. I'm already feeling it because he's been back a couple games now. And okay, so what are we doing with C.D. Osman and Rodney Hood?
Oh man, I mean, these are the matchups you want versus Brooklyn. I think if Harris sits, I like Hood a little bit less because I really respect Damari as a defender. Joe Harris isn't bad, but he's not at the level of Damari. And so everything that I'm seeing is that Harris is probably going to come back. He probably could have came back last game, but they were being cautious. In fact, the first game he sat, they said they were being cautious. And then they sat him a second game, right? So I think him coming back here today, for me, it puts either one of those guys firmly in play. You're talking about two guys in the 5K range that are going to play 30-plus minutes versus Brooklyn. I mean, I don't hate it at all.
No, I don't either. Oh, man. I love this position as a whole. It's very, very hard to kind of get over. Each one more probable. Joe Harris probable. We've talked about them. I think they're both in play. Talk to me a little bit about James Enos. Okay, then.
It's difficult for me to do because the problem with Enos is 1 out of like 10 games it's good, and most of those were without Chris Paul where they needed a little more offense from him and needed to do a little more for the 45 seconds that they let James Harden sit and take a breather. I mean, listen, he's definitely a drop score candidate type player with his minutes and his price. But I don't know that I can play him with another, lower price guy. Like, I'd rather play a few hundred more and go up to Kelly Oubre. I mean, who at least is going to be aggressive on offense. Enos isn't there really for offense. He's there to defend.
Yep. I would agree with you. Anthony Davis, we've talked about. He's in play at the power forward position. Blake Griffin versus Oklahoma City.
I think if you're not playing Anthony Davis, you kind of have to go to get your upside somewhere. And if it's going to be at the power forward, I think I'd rather pay $900 less and go to Montrez. I certainly don't mind Blake Griffin. I think, I don't know. It's one of those where, I think if we're doing a, like multiple lineup, MME type of scenario, I'll give him a few percentage points, but that's about the furthest I'll go.
Yeah, I don't think at this price I can do it. Oklahoma City's not a team that I like to attack a lot. And when I do, I only attack them in certain spots. And this isn't where I'd agree with you. I'd rather go play Montrez, Tobias, or I'm paying down. So Montrez and Tobias, obviously, I think they're both in play. I think Montrez is going to be a little bit higher owned. So if you want to get off the chalk a little bit, then probably pivot to Tobias. Maybe not as high upside, but still a pretty good play. Probably wouldn't do that in cash, though.
Yeah.
John Collins.
He's too pricey, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson.
So Hollis-Jeff is a guy that I've actually been playing lately, and it's a little bit frustrating for me. Because he starts off and he's like, oh wow, he's having a big game. Here comes the stealing game. And then the end of the game comes around and he just kind of disappears. So I haven't seen at 6K, I haven't seen the ceiling that I need to take down a tournament. He's cash viable because he's not going to get less than 20 points. He's going to play over 30 minutes. You're going to get your 25 from him. So I'm okay with that. But tournament upside, I don't believe he has it right now.
Okay. Serge Ibaka, Pascal Siakam.
It's here's the thing. These guys don't both play power forward. Siakam plays the power forward. I mean, because look, you're looking at you're like, do they both split minutes? No, they play at the same time. Ibaka plays the center. What that means is that Ibaka's going to have to be guarding Jokic, at least to start off the game, unless they decide to go with Joval. We'll see. Actually, might even see some moves today. But I mean, the reality here is neither of those guys can really guard him down low. I mean, they're good defenders. Yeah, they're actually elite defenders. But Jokic is a different animal, and so one of the two is going to take somewhat of a hit. And we've seen that, Joval, even if he starts, he doesn't really play more than 22 minutes. So they'll both get at least 30. They're just not going to get to the 33 that we'd like for them to see. And, Ibaka is the cheaper of the two, so that's probably where you'd go if you had to choose.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I actually prefer Noah Vonleh over both of them.
Yeah, same here.
And then, okay, so I kind of touched a little bit on Markieff Morris. We're going to save everybody the pain of talking about Larry Nance today. I'll leave that for all of our notes. Jeremy Grant, I think he's okay. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. But let's talk about Jonas Jerebko a little bit. The Warriors are down another big man. Torn pectoral for Damian Jones. And so this is going to leave three guys. They're all under 4K. They're all really cheap, and they're all going to see an increase in minutes, and they're all going to be very highly owned.
Yeah.
How are we distinguishing between the three? And the three I'm talking about are Jonas Jerebko, Kevon Looney, and Jordan Bell.
Yeah.
Because they're all in play.
Yeah, they are. I mean, for me, it's going to be Jerebko probably a lot. And, the thing about their opponents, first of all, if this game, like we've been saying, ends up not being close, you're going to see a lot of Jerebko. Right? He's going to get a lot of garbage time, and if the game does stay close, you're still going to see a lot of Jerebko. What does that mean? It means he's pretty safe. In a tight game, you're looking at 25 minutes. 22 to 25-ish. In a not-so-tight game, you might even creep up to 28. Against a team that doesn't defend very well at any position. I mean, go look at all their numbers. Teams at every position light them up. And a versatile guy like Jerebko is kind of where I want to go here. I mean, you look at the opposition, like I said, you've got Dedmon and Collins down there. So they're probably going to they are going to start Looney. That was already announced by Steve Kerr. And so I watched his interview this morning after shoot-around or practice or whatever it was, asking what he's going to do. And he says, I'm going to start Looney tonight. And it's going to be Bell. Actually, he called him JB. Jordan Bell and Jerebko are going to be also getting the minutes. That was the order he said it in. He said Looney, he said Bell, he said Jerebko. Now, you want to look into it a little bit too much? Maybe he said that in the order of guys that are playing the most. I don't think so, but maybe. But as of right now, we don't really have any inclination because this is the first game without Jones. It's also going to be very matchup dependent. When they go and play like, a big team like Detroit, who's got both Drummond and Griffin, he's probably going to need a lot more Bell to defend Blake Griffin. I think if you put Jerebko on Blake Griffin, I think Blake Griffin has a pretty good game. So you're probably in this particular matchup going to see a lot more Jordan Bell. The next game against a smaller team, you might see a lot more Jerebko.
Yep. I think they're all involved. I think they're all really good plays because of their price and, the fact that, they're pretty much blowout proof. There's a lot of minutes to go around here, and there's only there's only so many rotations that they could throw out. Now, what they can do is they could throw out Durant at the 4 and Iggy at the 3, and they can have two of these guys off the court at one time. But one of these three are probably more than likely about 99% of the game going to be on the court.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be all matchup driven. I mean, I know that they don't play. They kind of like with Chris Paul and James Harden, with their bigs. They kind of rotate between Drummond and Blake a lot there. I mean, they play together too, but they like to rotate them. And so I think when Blake is the small ball 5 is when you're going to see a lot more Bell and or Jerebko, and then when Drummond's on the court is when you're going to see a lot more Looney.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the center position. You have any interest in Karl Anthony Towns?
I do. And I do primarily because I think this is going to be a spot where most people pay down. Because you're going to see Looney and Bell, getting a lot. Tristan Thompson, you're going to see a lot of these guys that are going to be in a lot of lineups. And you got a guy like Karl Anthony Towns who has slate breaking ability. So, am I playing him in cast? Of course not. But in tournaments and in a game that I'm, playing James Harden and maybe even a Wiggins, yeah, I'm absolutely playing Cat. Absolutely.
I agree. I'm probably not going to be playing him. I think he's in play, but I'm probably not going to be playing him a ton. There's too much I like at the lower end of the spectrum. I like Jokic at 85. I love Capella at 87. You mentioned Tristan Thompson. I could even get behind a little bit of Julius Randle at 71. Him and I won't have any of Andre Drummond. I just won't do it. But I'll have a little bit because of the fact that Towns does have the ability to go for 65, and he's probably going to be at a very, very low ownership today. But he definitely won't be a main staple in any sort of core that I have.
Yeah. And some news that I know you'll like because you like him. First NBA Rookie of the Month. West, Luka Doncic. East, Trae Young.
There we go. Andre Drummond, like I said, I'm not going to be touching him. I don't care what he's projected at. He's too expensive, and he's going up against Steven Adams. Yeah, not even going to try it. Nikola Jokic, 85 against Toronto. I don't think that he's going to be highly owned, but
he's not.
I love this matchup, and same goes with Clint Capella.
Yep.
I think you... okay, so figuring out who to pair Jokic up is a little bit harder than figuring out who to pair Capella up with.
Honestly, man, you're right, but at the same time, it's not that hard. Because I think if you're going to play Jokic, I think you got to play Paul Millsap next to him. That's how I look at it. Because... Or Jamal Murray.
I was leaning more Jamal Murray because I don't want to deal with the Pascal Siakam,
I get it.
Anunoby type of defense.
So I wasn't even scared of that. I was more concerned they really priced up Millsap, and rightfully so. He's been doing it. I mean, I can't argue there. But dude, the reason why I hesitated a little bit with Lowry with Murray was because of Lowry, right? Obviously, Harris is because of Green and or Kawhi. I mean, I don't think Kawhi is going to spend his time on Hernan Gomez very much because he might. I don't know. It'll probably be more Green on him. We'll see, but yeah. I mean, I think
I would almost prefer a naked Jokic.
Yeah, see that I'm okay with.
So
that I'm okay with.
Clint Capella, you can obviously pair him up with James Harden, Chris Paul, Julius Randle, I think is in play, Tristan Thompson. I mean, all these guys are in play. We talked about the Jordan Bell, Kevon Looney thing.
Yep.
I think Steven Adams is a really good target tonight as well. I will have it's difficult to pick between Steven Adams and Enos Kanter when they're $100 apart.
Well, it's difficult for you. It's difficult for you
No,
because I know how much you love the guy.
Well, I love them both. That's not the point. It's just
it's Kanter. It's Kanter. So I mean, Kanter doesn't have to deal with any real bigs in this game. He's.
I think the matchup's better, but
he's got 65 point ability. We've seen that. I think if you're looking at these two, I play a little more Adams in cash and Kanter in tournaments.
See, that's where I was leaning.
And go from there.
I actually really like a lot Jared Allen today.
Yeah.
I think he's in play.
Yeah. Good price. Good matchup.
Yeah.
Coming off a day's rest, which they didn't have last game. Coming off a double overtime game and a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Let a lot of people down.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And, I mean, if you want to pivot off of like a Kevon Looney or a Jordan Bell, then you could go to like a Thomas Bryant or Mitchell Robertson. But, I mean, if you're going to pivot off of one of those two, I would almost suggest paying up. To me.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not playing one of those two at your center position today, then just go ahead and pay it up and get out of that mid tier or that mid price range.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you there.
All right, man. I know we ran a little bit long today, but as we usually do on Mondays. So, but a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff to unpack. So, any final words?
No, just I will be coaching a little bit less this week. I'll be on all the podcasts, but I'm going to be coaching a little bit less. So, you're in good hands with the rest of our guys, and that's about it.
Alrighty, that's going to do it for us today. For myself, for Bear, for the DFS Army, we gone.